Spoilers for Superman, obviously. Listen, I'm just gonna get right into it. Go watch this fucking movie. All right, it's Friday night. You don't know what to do. Go watch that movie. It's your birthday and you don't know what to do. Watch that movie. It's your anniversary and your girl's being indecisive and you really can't put up with it anymore and you a little indecisive too. Go watch that fucking movie. Hell, if you have any time to do anything, watch this movie. I only say this because this is not just a movie that I've always wanted. This is not just the movie that I've been hoping for decades. This is the movie that needed to happen, especially in this current time. Art is more important now than ever, and this new movie just basically confirms it. Everybody I know that has went to go see this movie has cried during it, has felt inspired during it, has felt hope during this movie. And that is something that I don't think has been a thing since... shit, nigga, the one from 1978. However, the question that you have right now after me saying all these things is, well, why is it so important? Why was it necessary? However, for me to tell you how important this movie was, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, like before most of our parents were born. That's right, we're going all the way back to radio dramas, Technicolor, dinosaurs, and Moses. I think everybody already knows right now that Superman is the first superhero. This guy has been around for almost 100 years now. He was the person that ushered in the golden age of comics. And during the golden age of comics, all your Supermans, Batmans, Wonder Womans, Flashes, Captain Americas, Namors, Human Torches, they were all just war propaganda. Anybody that says comics aren't political is stupid. A lot of these characters were designed to promote an American ideal, and Superman was at the forefront. He was actually the symbol of America more than the dude named Captain America. His old slogan was truth, justice, and the American way. And a lot of superheroes in that time frame tried to promote an ideology that America was trying to project onto the rest of the world. That's why you have a lot of characters punching Hitler or Nazis in general. This was classic black and white storytelling. There was a good guy with a cape that saved the day, and the bad guy that was trying to harm other people. Superman was made to be exactly that, a Superman. He could leap tall buildings in a single bound. He was faster than a locomotive. He can maintain a perfectly good haircut even after all that movement that he does. It's genuinely really impressive. That's probably the most super thing about him. But in that time period, up until a certain point, the storytelling was very much good versus evil. The Nazis were doing bad things and us Americans were doing the right thing. However, something sinister was coming down the horizon. Something called... The Comics Code Authority was basically a seal of approval. Think of it like the ESRB rating for video games except for graphic novels. A lot of teachers and other thinkers, philosophers, and adults in general just thought that comic books were a lot more harmful for their children. They made them want to glorify violent acts, they made them illiterate. So basically the same thing that they said about rock and roll and rap and video games and TV and basically anything that a kid could find fun, there was going to be a censorship on it. And the Comics Code Authority was no different. Hi, post-production Ethan here. Something I forgot to mention, that the Comics Code Authority seal was completely optional, meaning that if publishers didn't necessarily want to make it through the Comics Code Authority, then they didn't really have to. But a lot of retailers would be looking for that seal because it shows that it is safe and approved for consumers to buy their kids. And a main goal of a corporation is to make money. And what's not optional is keeping the lights on. So if they wanted more money, they got to get it through the Comics Code Authority. Anyways, back to the video. That's exactly why in the Silver Age, you will find a lot more science fiction, fantasy graphic novels, and especially more absurd plots. And Superman especially was not exempt. While you had the introduction of characters like Barry Allen and Hal Jordan, you also have shit like Lois turning into a black woman. You have shit like Batman changing his suit color. You have shit like Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. In the Silver Age of comics, it introduced a lot more things that weren't necessarily as relevant to the times as they should be. Instead of just making these characters symbols and upholders of American ideology, they made these characters very whimsical and campy and unserious. You obviously have your characters like Iron Man, who was literally Stan Lee's direct response to people's anti-war efforts. At this time, you had the hippie movement. You had a lot of people that were just very anti-war propaganda, anti-violence, so they had to kind of adjust their characters to fit that. But then, like the seasons, people's opinions and values changed. Not everything was so black and white, and we don't like fighting, but more things kind of operate in this gray area, and that is exactly when, starting in the 1970s, now we are entering into the Bronze Age of comics. This is from roughly the year 1970 to the year 1985. So around this time, a lot more social questions were asked and a lot more darker tones were said. Think about the night Gwen Stacy died. Think about the introduction of the Punisher. You have characters like Luke Cage and Black Lightning, who are direct responses to the Black Power movement. There was a lot more social relevance than there was in the Silver Age. And a lot of these issues were put into the forefront because, like I said, comics are political. Comics are, in a way, propaganda. People didn't necessarily believe in the red, white, and blue ideology, and people were tired of Silver Silver Age shenanigans. So when the Bronze Age of comics kicked in, now we're seeing a lot more grounded and serious stories. So as you can see, and most of you probably already know already, that art just kind of shifts depending on what the consumer values at the moment. And towards the Bronze Age, people were kind of dwelling in that moral gray area and realizing that not everything is as black and white as it used to be. Well, it never was black and white, but you know how they thought it was. So 1970 to 1985, I kind of feel like was the base of what a lot of modern comics were going to end up becoming. So then at the end of 1985, we are then introduced to... We have now made it to the future. The modern age of comics runs from 1986 to the present. So basically we're living in that age right now. This is when you get your Dark Knight Returns, your Killing Jokes, the death of Superman's, Crisis on Infinite Earths, all the other crises that DC did. So the modern age of comics, I feel, has just become a mix of everything. You have comics that are telling stories about real world issues, but at the same time still having that fantastical science fiction, otherworldly, larger than life quality. So for every Killing Joke, you have Boom Studios Power Rangers. For every identity crisis, you have Batman meets the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. For every Sins Past, you have Spider-Geddon. You see, there's like a mix of everything here. So the modern age of comics has become a lot more diverse because a lot more diverse writers are writing a lot more diverse stories with these more diverse heroes. You have things about the emotional spectrum, trauma, abandonment, a lot of heavy topics that are now brought up in modern day comics. But why did I take you through a very brief, very diluted, very simple version of every single age of comic books? And how does this relate to Superman? Well, it's because Superman is a classic tale of doing the right thing. We have regressed so far as a people that we have to go all the way back to Golden Age level storytelling. Superman had its complexities, but at the end of the day, it was literally about doing the right thing. It was about right versus wrong, good versus evil. It is what it was about to be human. That was what they were doing back then. That was what they were doing, black and white, good and evil. That is the type of storytelling they were doing back then, and that is what society had kind of tried to stray away from, because not everything was black and white. But nowadays, it is just that wicked. And I believe that this idea of good versus evil in its own way in this movie was portrayed perfectly, especially through the other characters like... So I know I warned y'all about spoilers at the beginning of the video, but I'm just going to again preface, I will be spoiling this movie. So if you have not seen it, don't even click on this video, go watch something else, go watch the movie and then come back to this video. I think the Justice Gang was very fun, and they all represented very different things. First of all, they're a government sanctioned superhero group made by Maxwell Lord, and if y'all know who Maxwell Lord is, his intentions usually aren't the best. You have Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific. All three of them were amazing characters, especially because they were kind of in this movie to set up this universe. So we're going to see them a lot more later down the line, but they all kind of represented passivity. They all knew what was going on was wrong, but because they are government sanctioned and they do understand the political strife that would go into interfering with a foreign conflict, they just decided to stay put and not do anything. However, they all knew that it was wrong, and they all knew that Lex Luthor wasn't up to any good, especially when he was framing Superman. Even Guy Gardner in the movie says, "Oh, I'm not political. I'm not going to get into any of that stuff." You know somebody, or you yourself might be somebody that declares themselves as apolitical, which a neutral stance is just a stance with the oppressor. You don't care to do anything, you're just trying to stay in the middle for whatever reason. But by the end of the movie, Guy Gardner chose to do the right thing. Same thing with Hawkgirl. We didn't see much of Hawkgirl in the movie, but I do hope to see her later down the line. She was the same way. It has nothing to do with me. We weren't told to do it, so I'm just gonna stay put and read my newspaper. But she ended up going with Guy Gardner and actually, spoiler alert, murking the president of this clear Israeli comparison, clear Netanyahu comparison, just drops him. So they both ended up doing the right thing, but that's the cool part about this movie, how human it was. Mr. Terrific was by far my favorite character in this entire movie, just because he was smart enough to understand that there was something bigger that was going on behind the scenes. And he also did, in his own way, show that heroic side and show that sympathy. He who is more impersonal and he who is more logic oriented decided to be the first person from the Justice Gang to step in and help out Superman, which I thought was pretty cool. Big step from Darwin, I can tell you that. All three members of the Justice Gang at the end of the day were still human. They were still superheroes. Sure, they were government sanctioned, but at the end of the day, all of them want to do right and protect the people. That is kind of where that human element of this movie kicks in. When you shift through all the government and political stuff that is kind of designed to make it so complex that you don't feel like doing anything. It is a matter of if this the right or wrong thing to do. And every member of the Justice Gang decided that this shit was wrong. Lex Luthor trapping Superman in a black hole was wrong. Him getting wrongfully convicted was wrong. This clear Israel and Palestine war conflict parallel was wrong. And characters in the Justice Gang kind of represented good people that were being very passive because they did understand the weight of doing what they were going to do. But at the end of the day, they chose the right thing to do. They chose the human thing to do, which is a very common theme through this entire movie. So while Superman and the Justice Gang ended up displaying the human traits of hope and bravery and determination and doing the right thing, let's talk about the other side. All right, let's talk about the bad guys in the movie. First of all, I think this is the best Lex Luthor I have seen since the Justice League Unlimited animated series. This guy was amazing as a villain. He was petty. He hated Superman. He was greedy. He was corrupt. Everything I needed Lex Luthor to be, that's exactly what he was. If you want to talk about Superman being the most human character in the story, Lex was on the complete opposite side. Lex did not care for humanity if the humanity didn't care about him. He wanted to be seen as the good guy. He wanted to be seen as the genius that saved the world and saved humanity, which is why he is so upset at Superman, this non-human, coming to Earth and being the champion, the chosen champion of the people of Metropolis, of the world. Now, am I going to sit here and say all billionaires are evil? No. However, this is not the first time we have seen a bald, white, corrupt millionaire in power like this. Someone who has all the influence in the world just because he makes the most money. Lex Luthor engineered a whole war, tried to get a whole half of a country so that way he can get a lot more resources to try to murk Superman. This was not even about being king. This was not even about amassing power for his own personal gain. He just wanted Superman gone. It disgusted Lex because this non-human was shown to be the best of humanity. Meanwhile, he thinks that he can benefit humanity a lot more than this god that's flying around. Not necessarily knowing Superman's very human upbringing and origin. Now, speaking of this war Luthor engineered, this was clearly, you know exactly what this conflict was trying to parallel. Even if you want to deny it, you knew exactly what they were trying to say. So when I say stuff like this movie wasn't trying to be political, it really wasn't. This movie was trying to say genocide is fucking wrong. And if you defend genocide, you are objectively on the wrong side of history. This movie was anti-genocide. And if you thought about Israel, well, fucking if the shoe fits. The bad guys in this movie, in juxtaposition of the good guys in this movie, demonstrated one singular trait that both of them just did not have in common. And that is, when I say watch this movie, please watch this movie. Only because this is the most human movie that I have seen in recent years. Superman is the most powerful dude on the field at all times. He can do everything. He resisted the pull of a black hole. He 2v12 being scientifically engineered to kill him. But out of everything that he chose to do, he chooses to be human and he chooses to do the right thing. Superman is not human, but is more human than every single character in this movie. He is a farm boy from Kansas. He knows not of geopolitics, but he does know what is right and what is wrong. And he saw people getting killed mercilessly for no reason and decided that I need to do something about it. And he does that throughout the whole movie. Dude saves a fucking squirrel. Metamorpho, the guy who turned his hand into kryptonite to keep Superman in his cell for Lex Luthor, had a son that was being held captive by him. Superman saw that, said, hey, we're gonna get your kid back, and decided to do it because it's the right thing to do. He would rather risk his life falling into that black hole than letting this guy's kid die. That's what it means to be human. It means to be kind. There is an interaction that Superman and Lois have in this movie. And Lois is basically talking about how she is punk. She questions everything. And Superman, in kind, responds with, maybe being kind is punk rock. And in this current day and age, and for all time, yeah, being kind isn't really as valued anymore when it's something that we should all be giving each other. What's more valuable is somebody's image, somebody's status, how much power somebody has. And Superman technically has all three, but chooses kindness above everything else. This movie reminds us to be kind to one another. This movie reminds us that we are all human. Even the guy that came from a dying fucking planet is human. He is Superman. Man, key word. A lot of people focus on on the super, this movie focused on the man, which I don't even have a clever segue in this thing. Let's talk about Superman. Let's talk about Superman. Now, for those of you that haven't seen the movie already or are new to this video or new to my channel, I made a video a while ago about how I don't necessarily like all these evil Supermen that have been popping up in recent years. There is this stigma that Superman is boring and he's predictable and he's so strong that it makes all his stories lame. So that's exactly why we have all these other fucking imitations flying around and why they're so popular. We have gotten so much of this anti-Superman bullshit that we forgot exactly what Superman stood for. In the last segment, I said he's a Superman. Everybody wants to focus on the super, not enough on the man. The best Superman stories come from the internal conflict that he faces. This is a guy that can do everything but decides to put kindness and morals above everything else. His arch nemesis in reality is the most powerful person on the globe. He has all the money, he has all the influence, he has hella charisma. I think he even was president at some point. Superman's arch nemesis is a guy who has no physical powers, because that's not what the struggle actually is. The best Superman stories do have some action, but the main conflict is Superman and who he is. Will his morals and will his convictions compromise in the face of this new threat? Because you can't necessarily hurt him unless it's under specific circumstances, and even then he just kind of shrugs that shit off. It is about the mentality, it is about the morals that makes a Superman story good, and James Gunn fully understood that. In this movie, we see Superman feel every type of emotion that a human being could feel. He felt angry, he felt sad, he felt happy, he felt confused, he felt love. This guy feels the same way we do. There is a scene where Superman is taken to the farm where he grew up with Ma and Pa Kent. His father gives him a speech about what parents' role is in the child's life. He says something along the lines of, parents aren't supposed to tell you who to be, they're supposed to give you the tools to go around and fuck around and find out who you are. Superman could be anything, he could do anything, but he chooses to be human. He uses his powers to help other people and be kind. And that's not just something he can do. Superman is supposed to serve as an inspiration and as a symbol and as a figure of what we as humans all have the power to do. His main power is being good and doing the right thing. He doesn't complicate it, he doesn't think too much about it. He sees something bad that's happening and he goes and tries to do something about it. That is this movie's call to action. That is the main thing that this movie is trying to convey. With all the injustice going on in the world, with all the bad shit that's happening, what are you going to do about it? Sure, no one gets powered by the yellow radiation of the sun and can fly as fast as light, but us as humans have a lot more power than we think we have. And out of everything to take away of this video, take away this. The hope doesn't come from one singular entity. The hope doesn't come from something saving us. Hope is what we make of it. Hope is something we can literally make by being kind to one another, by being there for each other when times get rough. When no one's there to save us, we can all save each other. We can all help each other. This was a very necessary movie. This was something that people needed to see, and this was a movie that needed to happen. A lot of people on that side of the bird would call it woke, would call it anti-Israel. This movie is anti-being a dickhead. This movie is anti-doing the wrong thing. And if that's woke to you, then I'm sorry, but you're just too far gone. Anyways, let me know what y'all think. This has been Ethan, and I'ma see you when I see y'all.